Who's your emergency contact? Who should we notify in case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I've spent the last 2+ decades of my life. I've been sharing with you guys, my story, going through the different penitentiaries and the different people that I've met. And, each penitentiary that you've been to, they have their different levels of violence and chaos. I mean, for the most part, they're about all even. But while I was in Beaumont from 2006 to 2008, it was almost like an everyday thing over there. It was just a little bit extra. It got to the point where they shut the whole prison down, brought in the bus, and shipped us out. But through the course of my bid, I've been able to build rapport with people from different races and different gangs. And one of the dudes that I'm sharing the story with today, I mentioned before, is Babay. Babay and I got cool when he came to Florence. I never knew him before he got to Florence, but I've always had a rapport with the dudes from the Vice Lord. Like when I was in Lompoc, they had the old head. I think they call him, his name was Babay too. But they're, I believe, and I might be incorrect, but, the shot callers or the head of, whatever branch of Vice Lords, they call them chiefs. And, Babay, the other one that I was in Lompoc with, he was a chief. And then they had a dude named Wise that came there. And when Wise came on the compound, the compound knew who he was before he even touched down. Like his reputation preceded him. And then I was really cool with the homie Insane from Insane Vice Lord. And so through the course of my time, when I moved to Victorville or when I went to Beaumont or any other penitentiaries that I got transferred to, my relationships carry with me, even though that I'm just meeting these dudes that I don't know, but they, all these people from these gangs and organizations, they all keep in contact. And they're like, oh yeah, I know who you is. You fuck with my homie over there in Victorville. Oh, you fuck with my homie over there in Lompoc. And that allows me in the door, as opposed to them embracing me and then willing to deal with me and making my time and my transition on these new compounds easier. And the same thing with Babay, the one that I met in Florence. I didn't know him before then, but when he came, how me and him got cool was we started doing business because he was known that he had money. He was known to keep the sack. And again, his reputation preceded him. He was known to be a good dude, a stand-up dude and a gangster. So I built my rapport with him through business first and built my credit and my credibility with him to the point where me and him became friends. And it hurts my heart to know that he's back in custody. Now, I just found out a few months ago that he came home and went back to what he knew. And now he's facing a grip of time back there in the Midwest. But before that, in 2021, we were all getting ready to come home. There was 3 of us that was about to get released. The homie Stein, he's a Crip homie out of California, one of the OGs from the Crip Nation. He was scheduled to go home in June. Babay was supposed to go home in July. And I was scheduled to go home in August. So all 3 of us, the months leading up to it, we were excited. We talked about how we're going to connect out here. How are we going to build a network? And really, the network that we were talking about building is one of trying to prevent dudes from taking the same path that we had. Trying to hope that there was a way that we can connect with each other, that we can speak to the youth or people and just let them know the reality of the penitentiary and that maybe they might think, twice about their predicament and make a change in their life that won't lead them into the life that we led. Because there's nothing to be proud of when it comes to being locked up. You can be proud that you survived it, but it's different. Because when you go to the penitentiary, being in prison means that you fail at the things that you're attempting to do out here. So, yeah, the penitentiary is full of failures and losers. There's no winners in there. Because no matter what you've done out here, no matter what money you got, no one in there gives a shit. So, going back to Babay, through the course of the time that I got to know him, he was the speaker for the Vice Lord in the Midwest. And I've had a few different confrontations with some of the dudes from the Midwest. And, these youngsters that don't know me, they see that I'm just a little guy and wear glasses. And for some reason, unbeknownst to me, because I don't carry myself any way other than respectful, they feel like they can puff out their chest because they're bigger than me or because they have more dudes in the block than I do. Because in my block, I'm the only Asian Islander in the block. Every now and then, I might get a celly, but they come in for a few months and get transferred to a FCI or something. I got the native bros in there, but there's still a separation. That's them and that's me. We aid and assist each other. We might, make a meal and eat together or anything, but being in Florence, being in DA, I'm by myself. So on these few confrontations that I got, they were just verbal, that I got into with these dudes, because they puffing up their chest. Their eyes get big when I'm like, man, fuck all that. What you trying to do, homie? And then now, they're not sure what to do because I'm not what they thought I was. I wasn't a path because I giggle and laugh and just kick it all day. They had a misconception of who I really was. So now they go run to Babay. And Babay would come and mediate and be like, man, what's up? Mason, man, what the fuck? What's going on? And I'd be like, yeah, your homie over there trying to jump out there. Say, what's up? Like, man, this and that or whatever. And nothing ever became of it. Me and Babay, we have a rapport that, before we let anything crash between our car and his car, or me or his people and my people, we're gonna get to the nitty gritty, and right is right and wrong is wrong. We're on man time. We're not gonna back no bullshit play. If somebody's being a douchebag or being a buster, we're not gonna aid and assist and support that. But I mentioned that only to say that, Babay's been on the front line for these dudes. Every time they had a confrontation, every time they had an incident in the block, they're running up there to Babay. Hey, Babay. Hey, Babay. And Babay, he takes his responsibility seriously. And he's a good dude. And he has rapport with everybody on the compound. So whatever he's got to say, out of respect for him, they're going to listen and hear and figure it out the best way possible. It's not just with the dudes in our block. It's the dudes on the compound. Babay's they're always coming to the door. Hey, can you holler at Babay? And Babay's like, man, me and him had a few conversations like, how does these dudes not understand or not know how to do time? It's not that hard. Be respectful. Don't jump out there and don't, bite off more than you can chew. But when you go to have these conversation that with somebody because of a brewing situation, there's no guarantee that this conversation is gonna go peacefully. It's gonna go the way that you hope. So anytime you're up there, you're putting yourself at potential risk. And Babay every single time was willing to take up that mantle, be on the front line to deal with all these do-boy shit, these do-boys that can't figure out how to do their freaking time, right? So on this particular incident, they had this dude. He's from 2-7, Puerto Rican gang. And I've known a few of them throughout the course of my time, and I knew a couple of them that was on that block. I'm not friends with them, or we weren't like tight or anything, but there was a respect level. We dealt in business and say what's up to each other and greet each other or whatever, play softball with each other. And for the most part, all them dudes from 2-7 that was in Florence, they always conducted themselves with integrity. So when this young kid come off the bus and gets put in our block and tells everybody that he's 2-7, and he is 2-7, his people acknowledged him when he went to the chow hall and all that stuff. They extended the same courtesy to this youngster as they would the other 2-7 that he know. Because, you're a reflection of each other. If you're a good dude and you bring somebody around, automatically people's going to assume that dude that you brought around is a good dude too, because if he wasn't, why would you fuck with him? And vice versa. If somebody knows you're a piece of shit and they see the dudes that you hang around with, they're going to assume that all the other dudes that you hang around with is just like you, a piece of shit. Because if they weren't a piece of shit, why would they be hanging around you? And that's why I try to tell people that everywhere you go, you're not just representing yourself, but you're representing the people around you, your close core group. So by extension, that Puerto Rican dude that came into our block was extended that same courtesy by everybody because of his affiliation. But at the end of the day, no one gives a shit about how much money you got. No one cares who you know or what gang you belong to. There's always going to be a time where you got to stand on your own 2 feet. And that's when you're going to be judged. Whether you fail or you pass, that's what it is. At the end of the day, people's going to judge you on what you're able to do on your own 2 feet. So he comes in the block like he's a gangster, like he got all this money and all this and that, but he likes the dope. He likes to smoke. So all the hustlers in there are extending him credit because, they have had dealings with his people and everything's always been good. So they're assuming that this dude wouldn't be part of this gang if he wasn't the same caliber of individuals like the rest of them. So they extended his credit. He's owing everybody in the block. And one of the dudes that he's owing is Babay and this Cuban dude named Martinez. Martinez is from Cuba. And he's Cuban. But, through the course of the penitentiary, you're going to build a relationship with men. And him and Babay got real tight. They've been cellies. They function with each other. And he's an older man. He's like in his late 50s. He's from out of Alaska. And just to sidetrack a little bit, just to give you a little bit of background of who this dude is, Martinez. I've always had good conversation with him. He was cool, respectful. I've enjoyed all my interaction with him. But being in the block, you're conditioned, being in prison, you're conditioned to observe and be aware of your surroundings and notice anomalies. He never had cellies, this guy Martinez. And the only time that he was ever celly with anybody was with Babay because, the unit got filled up and they needed a room and he volunteered to move into the room with Babay. But, when people come but he was like the last cell standing. When people come off the bus, they're trying to put him in cells with dudes. They don't ever go and try to put nobody in the cell with him. And I was always curious, I was always curious about that. Like, damn, everybody got a fucking cell except for Mr. Martinez, But unbeknownst to me, because, I don't really ask people about their case or anything like that unless they're in my car, because that's my responsibility. Check, make sure everybody in my car is up to par. So they had another dude later down. They had another dude that came from Alaska, and he was like, we were chopping it up. And he's like, "Hey, who is that right there? What's his name?" I said, "Oh, that's Martinez, Mr. Martinez. We call him Mr. Martinez. He's one of the legal beagles in the penitentiary. He helps people with legal work and stuff. Cool dude, like really cool dude." He's like, "Oh, that dude's crazy." And I'm like, "What? Mr. Martinez?" What he's saying and what I'm seeing. But, the people that are respectful, the people that conduct themselves seriously as far as like upholding their words and their values and stuff are usually serious individuals, But, he was an old man when I met him, and he was always goofy. We ate together sometimes, and like I've always had a positive interaction with him. But like, again, I noticed that no one ever put anybody in his cell. He's the last cell, and the time that he moved in with Babay is because our unit was full to capacity and there was no other place for these people off the bus to go. So he's like, I was like, "What?" I was like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, man, I was in Alaska with him. This is back in the early 2000s, because he caught his case out of Alaska. And I guess they had an incident where, long story short, where Mr. Martinez was trying to saw off one of his cellies' head, like that kind of crazy." And so I guess now, being in the feds, like the administration are not so quick. There's something on his jacket that if he doesn't want a cellie, he doesn't have to take one. And there's very few individuals throughout the system that can refuse a cellie, But he doesn't have to refuse a cellie. They already know not to give him a cellie. But that didn't change my perception of Mr. Martinez. Like again, I've always had a good rapport with him and all that. So going back to this incident, this 2-7 dude owes everybody in the block money. And then one of the people that he owes is Babay. And again, Babay and Mr. Martinez, they're really tight. They were cellies. They were cool. They're always cooking and eating together and stuff. And so on this particular day, I'm not in anybody's business, but being in the block, you've been conditioned to observe everything. I feel the tension in the block. I see all the Midwest, the Crips grouped up. Because, Babay, he's shot called for the Vice Lord in the Midwest, but he's real tight with Stan, who's the shot caller for the Crips. So the Crips in the Midwest and the Vice Lord, they function in the block real tough with each other, right? So I see them buzzing around. I feel the tension. I come out of my cell and I observe, because I don't know what's going on. I'm not gonna be sitting in my cell with my feet on, with my head in my book or drawing or something, not knowing what the situation is. Because at the end of the day, it might not look like it got anything to do with me, but who knows? So protect myself, I'm always up on my feet and I'm by my door and observing the situation. So I see all these Crip dudes and these Midwest dudes grouped up. And I see Babay talking to the 2-7 dude. They go upstairs into somebody else's cell and have whatever conversations they had. They came back down. But I can see that the tension, that the temperature, is heating up a little bit, right? And I go back to, every time these Midwest dudes have an issue, they're always running to Babay. And Babay's on the front line, coming and mediating for them, resolving whatever issues, whatever conflict they got. Everybody in the block know Babay's about to go home. This incident happened around April or May of 2021. Stein, Babay, and me, we're all waiting to go home. Stein's been down 30-something years. Babay been down 17, 18 years. I've been down 20 plus years. So for me observing from the outside, I'm like, well, why is Babay having to deal with this? He has all these youngsters, these vice lords, these crip dudes that always running to him for issues that he's always stepping up for. Why are they not on the front line? They're standing up. They got a little, they piled up. They got their chests out. But they're about 10 yards from where Babay and the dude is talking, right? But the one thing I noticed, though, was Mr. Martinez. They went to the computer because I guess they're supposed to check his account and he's supposed to have whatever he's supposed to have on the thing. So when they go to the computer, Babay and that 2-7 dude, they walk to the computer, and then the Midwest dudes, the youngsters, they come on the other side of the because the computer, all the computer is on this long ass table. There's about 8 computers on there for you to email and all the rest. So Babay and the 2-7 dudes is on one end, and then the Midwest dude, they're standing on the other side, right? I don't know what's gonna happen or anything. So the 2-7 dude gets on the computer, and next thing I know, I see Babay swing on him. Bing. Again, Babay is like months, like a month and a half to the house. Babay swings on him. Bing. Swings on him a couple times. Hit him, daze him. Now this whole time, Mr. Martinez is standing on the wall by the computer, but he was already standing there. He didn't walk over there with the crowd. He didn't walk over there with Babay. He was already posted up on the wall. So when Babay started swinging on dude, Mr. Martinez reached out and grabbed the dude, grabbed him by the collar of his shirt, pulls out his knife, and started going like Chucky. Grabbing the dude's running, and Mr. Martinez just sliding into him. Bah, 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 down the hallway. Dude's trying to get out the front door, run into back to the counselor's office, and Mr. Martinez got him. Pop, pop, popping him. And of course, the COs come out of their office, boom, they spray them dudes down or whatever and contain the situation. And, for me, that's my friend. So at the time, I'm like, damn, what the fuck, baby? You just fucked off your bid. Because who knows how seriously Mr. Martinez hurt the dude. It's one thing, it's a fist fight, but once you bring out a weapon, they could charge you. And in Florence, they're casing people. They're casing people just getting caught with knives on them. And I'm like, damn, what the fuck? Why, you got all these soldiers over here that you could have sent to go do this. He didn't have to do, the reason I say that, I'm not saying you ain't supposed to handle your business. I'm saying that is because he's always handled his business. And not just his business, but all these other dudes' business. All these dude boys that think they gangsters, So after the incident or whatever, and everybody left, the conversation I had with dudes, the dudes that, these vice lords, I mean, nothing with the Crip, because the Crip's not the vice lord. They aid and assist each other when it comes to different races and stuff. So there's nothing, I'm not speaking on their conduct. But these dudes, these Midwest dudes, that is always running to Babay. Hey, Babay, hey, Babay. Every time, they get punked, or every time there's a potential confrontation, the way I see it, they're supposed to be like, hey, man, Babay, man, you about to go home, homie. You about to go home, OG. Sit back. We'll go deal with this. We'll go look at his computer. We'll go, whatever the situation, we'll go deal with this. You sit back. But none of them dudes did that. They all fucking act like they was about something. They all grouped up. They all walked over there to the computer. And then when the shit jumped off, they just sat there and looked. And then when the CEOs came out, they all scattered and started making their way back to their cell. Like, I just, I don't, shit like that pisses me off, especially because these dudes act like they some type of gangster, you know what I mean? And they have no idea of what that means. Growing up out here, you being led by dudes that never been nowhere, never done nothing, but you're young and you're impressionable, you think really that's the way to be a man. When I first went into the penitentiary, I was blessed and fortunate enough that these old heads took me under their wings and taught me how to be a man, taught me what integrity is, what morale is, and how to conduct yourself. And, being my age now, seeing the generations that's coming to the penitentiary is disappointing because, they're giving us a bad name, you know what I mean, by the way they conduct themselves. But fortunately for Babay, they took his time. They didn't let him go home when July came. I say fortunately because he didn't catch a case. They moved his date to December a year later. They took the whole year from him and moved his date back because I ended up coming home before him, and I didn't get home till a year later because he was in the SHU for like 6-7 months for that incident. But like I said, fortunately for him, they didn't get cased up. They never let Mr. Martinez back out of the SHU. He was doing the Chucky on the dude. And, it's disappointing that he's back in custody now. But, that's life, man. If you don't learn a lesson a couple times, you're not going to get too many chances. And after doing 20-something years, another dub's going to hold you. Welcome to the USP.